Just a quick scar.
Oh, yeah. All right.
I tell you what, a person who believes that this wasn't set up by our own government is an idiot.
Okay, so here we go with part 2. Now we're getting down to some complicated stuff. But it ain't too complicated. Easy for you to understand. So let's get down to business. Okay, we're talking about shifting verb tense here. So we know what we're discussing here. But now we did a little bit of review in part 1 of the verb tenses and how they relate to shifting verb tense and the most common ones that are used in shifting those verb tenses. Now we need to get down to more specifics here. Shifting verb tense more specifically. And now we want to talk about why. Why would we shift the verb tense anyway? I mean, of course, we know the best way to, tell something happening in chronological order, whether that chronological order had to deal with the past or the present, is to use the same tenses and, so forth and so on. But what happens when we want to shift the verb tense for meaning? Well, there are 3 reasons why we would do that. And those 3 reasons are simply because we want to describe a completed action. We want to describe a habitual action, or we want to describe a state of being, in order to help the reader understand, fully what's happening. Let's look at an example here, and let's see. Now, the habitual action is likes. Okay, the wife likes Juan's guitar playing. Okay, this is a habitual action. She likes it. When he starts playing it, she gets happy and she, really enjoys, his guitar playing. But in order to, to give the reader a better understanding of what she likes, then of course we add this clause here, and to clarify that it is actually the guitar playing that she likes. So here we have a multi-clause sentence. Let's read it in its glory. Juan played the guitar for his wife, who likes it. So she likes the guitar playing. She likes it definitely when he plays it. And so therefore in this sentence, likes definitely becomes a habitual action. So the reason why we changed the verb tense here was to describe a habitual action, and the description here, of course, is in this clause. Juan played the guitar for his wife. Yes, for his wife. And of course, this clause describes this completed action played. So they complement each other. In order for the reader to fully understand the reason why the verb tenses have shifted. Let's look at another sentence here. Juan loves his guitar, which was stolen yesterday. Now here, once again, we have a habitual action. This time it is coming in the main clause. But we need to describe what or more, or help us to give us some better understanding of this habitual action and why we are mentioning it. And of course, in the next clause, we understand why. Because it was stolen. I guess sometimes, when we have something stolen, it actually, means more to us. So to add emphasis to this love, we add this second clause. But also in this second clause, there's a completed action. Was stolen. Because obviously, you can't have the same thing stolen twice. You can, but, Okay, for the sake of argument, let's just say we can't. So we call this a completed action because it's not happening anymore. I mean, it's stolen. It's stolen. I mean, it's not like the person keeps running back, giving it to him, and he's stealing. No, it's stolen. It has been completed. There's no more to it. So, but we need to understand what, of course, is stolen. So we got our little description here in the habitual action. So these two clauses complement each other by adding the necessary meaning, and the shift in verb tense here from present to past. Now, with the two clauses together, it makes sense. It makes sense why we would shift. So back to the rule here. There are really only three reasons why, or there are three reasons why we would do a shift. It's because you want to describe a completed action, a habitual action, or a state of being. Yes. Okay, so let's look at a few more examples here before we, decide that we have, got this down to its, minuscule understanding. Juan played his guitar, which has flowers on it. Okay. Now, why is there a shift? Why did we go from past to present? What was the reason? Okay, so Juan played his guitar. Of course, we can assume that played is, of course, a completed action. Okay? And this next clause, Juan, which has flowers on it, the first clause, of course, is giving us a little more description as to what has flowers on it. Now, is this going to be of course, this is definitely, hello, sorry. Okay, back to our, sorry, back. Okay, so this is definitely going to be a completed action with played, and has flowers on it is going to be a habitual action, because this is something that is habitual. It just happens and happens and happens. I mean, of course, we can change the flowers, but I mean, presently in the sentence, this is going to be something that is going to be, it's just going to be that way. So Juan played his guitar, which has flowers on it. So which had flowers on it, which will have flowers on it, probably wouldn't make a lot of sense there. So for a better, clearer sentence, we definitely wanted to add this type of shift. But the point is that it was okay to shift. It was okay to shift. Juan played his guitar, which had flowers on it. I mean, we could say it that way, but it kind of wouldn't make sense as to why we are mentioning it. It's like completely irrelevant. It had flowers on it, and so although we could do that, the shift in this case, shifting it from past to present, it makes sense. Okay, it makes sense. So it's okay to do it here. It's okay to do it. So I guess I want to emphasize that you can shift verb tenses. You can, but there has to be a reason. It has to match the meaning of the sentence. And I think that is probably going to be the main thing that you need to understand about the whole shift in verb tense issue. Let's look at one more sentence, because I know you have the SCORM activity. You can look in, you can do it yourself. Juan played for his girlfriend, who prefers real flowers. Now, prefers, of course, is going to be habitual action. Played is going to be a completed action. These two clauses definitely complement each other by helping the reader understand why it was necessary to shift the tense here. Of course, we can say Juan played for his wife, who preferred real flowers, but having the past tense there doesn't make a whole lot of sense. So we needed to shift the tense to enhance the meaning and make it make more sense. And of course, in this situation, we could or we can shift the tense. So very awkward to use past tense here in both clauses. So, probably better to use a present tense in order to, show the habitual action better there. Okay, so I want you to go through the rest of these and in the SCORM activity carefully to get a feel of when it's okay to shift the verb tense. And okay, so now that we did our review of the verb tenses and how they are used when talking about multi-clause sentences, and now that we've seen that you actually can shift the verb tense, it's definitely going to be, focused on meaning. That's why I said at the very beginning that we're getting into rhetoric. So now that we've seen some examples and the reasons why it's okay, or why you would shift verb tense, now we need to get into when it just ain't right, when it ain't gonna work that way, when it's awkward, when it's wrong, when it's improper as opposed to proper. So now we need to deal with that. Illogical improper shift in verb tense. Now, an illogical or improper shift in verb tense occurs when a writer, meaning you, or maybe someone who wrote a test you take it, shifts from one tense to another for no logical or grammatical reason. Now, we got to say logical and grammatical here because, of course, we're dealing with grammar, but we also intertwine here with rhetoric. So that's why we're saying logical. But it has to be a reason. And we discussed what the reasons can be, and we discussed, so forth and so on. We did our review with the verb tenses. So you're ready to move. You're ready to move here. Okay. Okay. So okay. So let's move on. Okay, so let's just get down to business. Let's just deal with some sentences. Here is a nice, wonderful sentence. We're going to read it. I went to my room and I cried because I start thinking about sad moments. See? Perfect sentence. Shift in the sentences, the shift in the verb tenses are awesome. Awesomely great. Really good. Yeah? No. There's a problem here. Obviously, there's a problem. Went and cried a past tense. Start is present tense. We can't say it that way. Let's break the sentence down. I went to my room and I cried. We got our compound predicate here. I went to my room and cried. Went and cried a past tense. And then we got our subordinating sentence. Start with the subject-verb relationship, I start. Start, however, is present tense. It doesn't make sense because I start thinking about it doesn't make sense with past tense. So we need to correctamundo it. And how are we going to do that? Well, we can do it two ways. Okay, so there's more than one way to do it. I think probably the best way we're going to do what we want to do is we want to make everything past. We could make everything present. Let's see how that would sound. I go to my room and I cries. What? No, it wouldn't make sense. Present tense. But if we kind of change things around the sentence, maybe. Okay, let me stop playing. Okay, I'm gonna be serious now. Okay, moving along. Let's read the sentence together. Many times I became so frustrated with the workload that I just want to give up. Especially during midterms or finals when the tension is at its peak. Okay. I struggled with that sentence. And you're saying, I understand why you struggled. And I do too. There's a problem. A big problem with the shift in verb tense here. Became is past tense. Want is our present tense. This is not going to work that way. Many times I became so frustrated with the workload that I just want to give up. Huh? especially during midterms or finals when the tension is at. No, that's not going to work. We need to make it all past tense. I guess we can make it all past tense. Yes. When I, many times when I became, and I guess became is really, controlling everything here. So we need to make the other parts of the sentence, go with the became. Because we're talking about order here. We're talking about a chronological order. This happened, this happened, this happened. In order to show that, then we need to make sure that we have them in the proper tenses here. Many times I became so frustrated with work law that I just wanted, to give up, especially during many times when the tension was at its peak. So the became is controlling it. Maybe we could change it to present tense. Let's try. Many times I become so frustrated with the workload that I just want to give up. Especially during midterms or finals when the tension is at its peak. I guess we could do it like that. I mean, it does sound a little awkward there. Because of the meaning. So I don't know. I think we could keep it in past tense. I think that would be the best revision for that particular sentence. Okay, all right. Okay, trying to be serious. Let me drink some tea. More tea. More seriousness. More sentences. Let's get down to business here. Let's break this sentence down, please. The survey indicated that both men and women like the ads more when the models are attractive. Okay, all right. So we're definitely dealing with meaning here. The models are attractive. We're definitely dealing with meaning here, and so let's break it down. First off, let's check out the clauses here. The survey indicated that's one clause. Second clause beginning with that both men and women liked. That's the second clause. Third clause, when the models are. So we got three clauses here. So we got definitely a multi-clause sentence. We need to check all the tenses here. The survey indicated which is past. That both men liked the ads, which is also past, liked, when the models are attractive. Is that okay? That's the question. No. We need to put them all in past in order to make the sentence a whole lot less awkward here. We need definitely to indicate that we're talking about something that was taking place in the past. So all of it took place in the past. And the whole reason why they liked the survey, of course, that was done in the past was talking about what somebody liked in the past. And definitely we can't end it out with the present. So we need to talk about the thing that they liked also in the past. And let's see if we did that. And of course, yes, we made it like that in order to make the sentence completely logical and properly tensed. Hey, I like that. Properly tensed. Yeah, let's properly tense our sentence. Anyway, okay, so moving right along, let's go to the next example here. My psychology professor, Dr. Hayes, wanted his students to establish realistic goals that are not too hard. Okay, so wanted. So that means that the professor, he doesn't, really want the students to establish any realistic goals. This is one he don't care about his students no more, right? Yes, no. Wanted is past. Are is present tense. We need to make them yes. Yes, we need to say wants. Because, I know maybe you didn't pick it up at first, but we want to think that the professor hadn't given up on his students, that he wanted, as in all he wants. I'm talking about him in the past, he wanted, but really at the past, he wants. So that means he wants them to do that. He didn't give up on his students. He actually wants. So that's going to be in present. So my psychology professor, because obviously if it's my psychology, he still got the professor. Okay, you get me? Right. So Dr. Hayes, he wants, not wanted, he wants. It's like they, failed the test, and now he say they all losers and they're gonna do. No, he wants his students. See, I can relate to this sentence. You might not have picked that sentence up, but I related to that. That's why it sounded awkward. We definitely need to make sure that we place those tenses properly, or it's going to sound a little bit illogical, definitely awkward. We're going to mess up the meaning of the sentence. Yes. Okay, so let's move on here. Okay. When talking about objective tests, and of course we're talking about tests like standardized tests, we got to understand that the whole goal is to, in their present form, like the SAT in its present form, is to not give you the opportunity to see what comes before the sentence in order to make a determination of how the sentence is. No, you have to see the sentence alone in order to make the determination of whether or not the shift is proper or not. And that's a bit difficult. For instance, let's look at this sentence here. When King was a puppy, he chewed toys and furniture. Now that he is an adult, he wanted to chew the mail carrier most of all. Okay, so here you definitely have to use the ear and the brain. The ear for hearing it, the brain for translating it, and then including all of your, analyzing it, including all of your grammatical knowledge. Okay. Now, we got was, which is past, is, which is present, and wanted, which is past. The issue here is, and let me go back to the reasons why you would shift tense. Is there a reason why the shift there? Is there a reason why there is a shift in tense? When King was a puppy, he chewed toys and furniture. Now that he is an adult, okay, so if we stop there with that part of the sentence, we get like a chronological time frame here of course, dogs go from puppies to adult dogs. That makes sense. So that he would be an adult now because he was a puppy in the past. So that makes sense. So let's continue on. He wanted to chew the mail carrier. Now, the whole meaning of the sentence is that he has changed. I mean, that's the meaning. That, okay, when he was a puppy, he chewed and butt and ran after everything. But now that he's an adult, he's a little more reserved now. So I don't think as an adult dog yes. So I think here we would definitely say wanted should be present tense, and we should make it. See, sorry. Yes. Of course, the meaning is that the dog is still stupid. But the point being, we couldn't say wanted because that's the whole issue of the meaning of the sentence, that you actually want to show that the dog is still stupid. Not that all dogs are stupid, but, he still wants to chew on the darn mail carrier now. Anyway, let's do one more. Okay, I'm going to be serious. Aunt Lillian had frozen 4 quarts of her homegrown strawberries, but she lost them after the hurricane was knocking out power for 8 days. Whoa! Was this hurricane on Jupiter? That's a humongous hurricane. For 8 days, the hurricane? What? That's what it is. It don't make sense, do it. Let's analyze the sentence. Aunt Lillian had frozen 4 quarts of her homegrown strawberries. I wish I could get some of that. Okay, so that's fine. But she lost them after the hurricane. Okay, but she lost them. Okay, she froze them, but then she lost them because of hurricane. Okay, that makes sense. Okay. The hurricane, after the hurricane was knocking out power for 8 days. I don't know about you, but I can't imagine a hurricane knocking out power for 8 days. I mean, that's just me. You know what I'm saying? I mean, I see hurricanes, they like big, but a hurricane for 8 days would have to be gargantuous. I mean, you know what I'm saying? So I don't think we are going to be able to keep C, and I think C is going to be our problem. Yes, C is our problem. No, definitely not C. Okay, now let's look at this one. Of course, this is another form of that some may come in contact with one day or not. Form of a type of question on an objective test. Here we have an underlined part of a sentence where we're going to try to improve that underlined part or determine that it doesn't need improving. Because Sammy had been eating all of the chocolate mint ice cream before she got home, Roxanne whacked him over the head. Yes. Well, let's look at this. We know why Sammy got whacked. Okay? But does it make sense why he got whacked as the sentence reads? Because Sammy had been eating all of the chocolate ice cream before she got home, Roxanne whacked him over the head. The question is, and let's break it down, we got our first clause, because Sammy had eaten all of the chocolate mint ice cream before she got home. There's our second clause, Roxanne whacked him over the head. That's our third clause. And now we're trying to see if they match. Yes. Now, would she, here's the question. Well, why would she whack him over the head if he didn't eat all of it? Or maybe it was like, maybe she wanted to eat half and he had eaten more than half. I mean, you know, this is where the awkwardness comes in at. I think probably we're going to have to say had eaten instead of had been eating, because if we leave it had been eating, then that meant that she came in while he was eating. Thus, there's no reason why she should whack him. In addition to that, all of the chocolate mint, how do you had been eating all of it? I mean, you know, it doesn't make sense. All of it means it's either there or it's not there. It's all there or it's not there. I mean, we'd have to move the all out of the way because Sammy had been eating the mint. Then it would make sense that, you know, I mean, Roxanne is a little weird, you know, because she just don't like people eating ice cream, or maybe he wasn't supposed to touch it. I mean, but we don't have enough to go on to answer all of those questions. The only thing we have to go on is what's in the sentence, and the way the sentence and the meaning the sentence has, especially with the all, then we know that you can't have had been eating all. You either eat all or you don't eat all. Okay, so had eaten all would be a better choice there. So therefore, we had to choose C because the sentence was definitely in correctamundo there. Okay, so let's do one more, and then we're going to call it a day with this objective tester. Carlos pawed at his hair and shook his head, but he cannot dislodge the giant spider tangled in his curls. Okay, so let's see how many clauses we got here. Carlos pawed at his hair and shook. We got a compound predicate there. Next clause, but he cannot dislodge the giant spider tangled in his curls. So we got mainly we have two clauses. Then we got a compound subject with two verbs, and a compound predicate with two verbs. And the two verbs in the compound predicate are past tense. So let's read them to see if it matches. Carlo pawed at his hair and shook his head. Okay, that's fine. Let's look at this next one, though. But he cannot dislodge the spider. Now, we go back to the rule that we learned a little while ago. Yes, the past tense of can and will is could and would. So in this case, I believe that it should be could not. And let us see, yes, and that is correctamundo. Easy to get a sentence like this wrong when we're dealing with the answer choices, simply because, you know, we have to know that rule, or you just have to remember that the past tense of can and will is could and would. Yes. Okay, so that's why we went over it. Okay, we're not going to go over all of these. We're just, going to go over a few of these, and we just did. We just went over a few of these. Okay, so whoa. Okay, so now let's go over one. Okay, we just go one. Just one. Okay, just one more. Okay. All right. So here we go. If we decide to go on the trip today, we would have gotten first class seats on the airplane. Okay. Okay. So let's break the sentence down. Here are our clauses here. If we decide to go on the trip, that's the one clause. We would have gotten first class. That's second clause. So we got two clauses here with two subject verb relationships. Definitely got a verb tense situation going on here. Decide is present tense. Would have gotten is yes. Progressive tense here, dealing with the past. But so here's the deal. If we decide to go on the trip today, okay, we would have gotten first class seats on the airplane. Now, does that make sense? Maybe they're on the airplane while they're saying that. I don't know. I mean, yeah, but it still sounds a bit awkward here. I don't know if that's going to work at all. I think we might need to change it here a little bit. So let's look at the answer choices. We get rid of A. If we were deciding to go on a trip today, it's still like it's as if they are on the plane, and maybe they didn't like the seats they had on the plane. If we will decide to go on a trip today. No. If deciding to go on the trip today, no. If we had decided to go on the trip today, we would have gotten. Well, that makes sense. Okay, so now the E actually takes them off the plane. I think the other ones kind of gave us the feeling that maybe they were on the plane, regretting something, but that last E kind of gives us the indication that they're not on the plane, and they're going to get the tickets. Okay, so this is what we're trying to determine is these actions. What would be the best in this sentence for these actions to take place? Okay, although you can sit on the plane and regret the seats that you're on, man. If I had to get these tickets today, I would have got first class. I mean, so that makes sense. But I don't think that was the meaning of the sentence. I think it's going to definitely be E, because it's more logical that they are planning to do something, and they're just talking about what their plans are going to be, as opposed to have already done it, regretting what they did do in the past. Okay, so I think we're going to stop there and dealing with the whole objective test thing. I think you get the idea of the importance of shifting verb tense and how it affects your test taking and your writing. I would advise you to go over this video again, go over the SCORM activity again. Although I made a little light of the situation, this is a very serious concept. Not that easy, but not that impossible, especially if you got what we went over in the past, especially with the verb tense and the clauses and these different things, because you need to start really looking at sentences in form of clauses and our phrases in its parts, and that way you can break it down and understand how the parts relate. That's definitely what we just talked about in our shift and verb discussion. That's it for shift and verbs. And I hope you got it. Oh, yeah. If you get it in Islamic school.
We'll talk about tomorrow. Yeah, that's rolling the hard way. We don't want to roll quite that hard. We want to get one of them little minibuses. What's up?
A person who believes that this wasn't set up by our own government is an idiot.
Everybody's gone out of their mind. quick, Scott. Oh, yeah. All right. All right.